Well, we're going to get to somebody who has worked with young men through his career, teaching them about consequences. Coach Gary Waters, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for giving us some time again.
Oh, it's great. I'm excited about being here.
We love to get to talk to you. And right after the decision came down on the name, image, and likeness from the court, you were one of the first people that we thought of because of how you look at basketball, how you've worked with players. Before we get into the specific questions about it, what are your thoughts on the ruling itself and where we are at this moment in college sports?
Well, it's been a long time coming because if you remember, you go as far back as the O'Bannon twins when they got all into it and started trying to make decisions about this, and then they took out a lawsuit, and you wonder what would happen to it at that point. And now we're at this stage today because it finally has ran its course.
So we are where we are. The question at that point becomes, let's talk about it in parts. Let's talk about for the players, then the coach, then the schools. When it comes to the players, how do we do this? And if you were at a university in charge of this system, what do you do to protect the players from those that are out there that will prey upon them, and to make sure that they do this in a way that actually does benefit them, which is what should be happening?
Well, you said it right on right there when you said they're going to prey upon them. Now, I don't know if you heard the one case that just came down concerning the top college basketball player has signed a contract already, and I think it's something in the neighborhood of $20 million. Yes, it's going to the next level. And what's happening here is what my concern with it isn't that the people that are preying on it. It's either, everyone trying to get involved in the process. You're going to have schools that are going to try to recruit players, and in order to recruit players, they're going to talk to other people that have the ability to provide this for them, and they're recruiting them as well.
So how do you control it? How do you stop? I mean, you were in a system, you had to follow rules, and you advised young men how to follow those rules as well. There seems to be no rules right now. So if you were coaching, what would you tell your players?
Well, let me say this, and it seems like I'm skirting the issue, and I'm not. But think about the new ruling on the portal. Okay,
mm-hmm.
When that hit, I knew that we would be in a position where we would be considering this time as the Wild Wild West time, because anyone can go any place they want to go at any given time, as long as they met their requirements. Now, what the NCAA will have to do is catch up to what's going on, and they will have to add requirements to all this in order for someone to get accepted in the likeness issue.
Is there a role for the NCAA here, or have they abdicated their responsibility to a point where the horses are out of the barn and this is just not controllable anymore?
Well, right now I think they're struggling because I don't think they felt that it would come down this quickly, and they should have known.
Which shocks me because you knew it was coming. Anybody who watched the arguments had an idea that this was potentially coming. So it just seems negligent to me on their part with the fact that there was federal legislation introduced in Congress. There was this going through the court. There are other challenges going on. They're an institution that's supposed to teach people, and yet it doesn't seem like they learned any lessons to be prepared here.
And the O'Bannon case was a long time ago. It wasn't yesterday.
That's right. That's exactly right. And right now, I think they're backpedaling, if you want to call it that. And they're trying to make sure that they deal with the ruling first, because it's a ruling out there at one point. But what keeps it in check? And that's what they're trying to figure out right now. How do we keep this ruling in check? And they're going to have to safeguards. I don't know what they're trying to put together behind this. But right now, a person can get as much money as he wants just going out there. And it's not going to only affect the person, it's going to start affecting teams, Because, if you got one or two guys making all the money and everybody's become more and more, upset about those type of issues, you may not even have a team.
So that's actually my follow-up question. You're somebody who has dealt with men in locker rooms, and you also give coaches advice. How are coaches going to have to change their approach to manage a locker room where you have players with different levels of endorsement deals and some that don't have any at all?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they're making more than the coaches making. And so
I didn't even think about that. You're going to have players at some schools that are making more money than the coaches who are supposed to be guiding them. That's unbelievable.
Oh, it is. And I know it's a major concern. Now, the thing that we must put into thought is that it's only going to be a few, but those few can affect the entire system. And now they got to get ahead of that, because you got companies out there that's willing to pay the ongoing price for anything.
Well, so that's, you say that it's only the few, but the problem is while those few may benefit, the other ones are the ones that they're going to prey upon. And I'll use an example of down south. There is a school that might be called the U, where somebody has decided to offer all of the players money, basically the entire team. That, in my mind, in my jaded mind, that's just getting access to the team, which is what you guys as coaches would try so hard. Those coaches that were ethical had to sit there and deal with these kinds of what they would call boosters. How do you keep the boosters away from the kids now? Because even though they are adults, they are young adults that don't have the experience that people like you have and have to deal with this and make the right decision.
Well, one of the things that's going to have to occur is that they're going to have to rewrite some of the rulings, because right now the rulings don't fit what we're talking about. Whatever is said today, it doesn't fit into that whole systematic approach, what we're trying to talk about here. So the NCAA is going to have to rewrite rulings concerning this one issue alone. Now, like you said, they should have been ahead of the game. They should have rulings already set in line, ready to go. But I don't think they have that in line.
All right. Now I ask you, if you were coaching now, how do you deal with recruiting? Because this isn't just the kids that are in college. As you heard, there's a kid who's years away from college who is apparently signing deals where he's going to make millions of dollars. And if that kid and those kids have already made that, how do you recruit them? I think I know how you'd recruit them, but how do most coaches, how are they going to recruit them? And how are they going to be able to say, I'm the coach, you're the player? It's hard enough in the pros to do that. Yeah. How are you going to do that with college kids who come in some cases, probably making more than the coach is making?
Well, I tell you, it's going to be a very difficult process now for them, because the head coach has always been at the head of the family. Now, I don't know if that's the case any longer.
You got a lot of people at that family table now.
You got a lot of people at that table. You're exactly right. And the parents are the front runners. And that was one of the areas that we tried to keep away. I'll give you a little example of that. You remember the young man, Norris Cole?
Yeah.
He played for the Miami Heat. He played for me at Cleveland State. I remember on his campus visit, his dad pulled me aside and said, Coach, I just want to say my son's excited about your school. He's going to commit to you. I want him to tell you, but he's going to commit. But all I want to say to you is you do what you have to do to get him on track. I don't care what you do, and you don't have to worry about coming to me, because I will never say a word. You just do what you have to do, and when it comes to academics, talk to me then. Now, how many parents you going to have working on that kind of aspect now?
Yeah, no, they'll be transferring to another school at that point.
You're exactly right.
They'll enter the portal.
Well, and think about it now. You're going to have to recruit the kid financially now. It's not just recruiting as a player. You got to recruit him on how much money you can get for him.
Well, and that's sort of my follow-up question. When we had you on last time to talk about your book. We talked to you about how you wouldn't go in and talk down another university when you were recruiting. You would go in and tout the benefits of your program. How easy is it now for these larger programs to say, why go there? We can get you more endorsements here with all of our boosters. And that actually becomes a part of the recruiting process now to stress the size and amount of boosters that can pay these kids over a smaller school.
And that's a whole other recruiting tactic. And I'm telling you, the coach that runs these programs today must know all about that concept. Because if he comes in and it's only about X's and O's and don't know how to provide the other opportunities for these players, he may not keep his job very long.
So how does a coach deal in this climate now? Who has the power? Is the power all in the hands of the athlete at this point, or does the scholarship that the university offers have weight that they'll have to listen because of, they don't get these endorsements if they don't have the platform, or is that whole dichotomy changed now?
Man. When you say that, I mean, it really scares you. And when I look at this whole thing today, is that each coach is going to have to look and see what type of player they want to recruit. Do they want to recruit that type of player to come into their program to get an endorsement? Because if you do, then you know what's all behind it and what you have to deal with. And you better be prepared for it. Before you didn't have to deal with all that. The NCAA dealt with it for you. Now you're going to have to understand it, and you're going to have to now. And here's the scary thing: the coaches are going to have relationship with the companies now, the booster companies, to make sure they can recruit this kid.
Yeah, it's chilling to see what we're going to have to deal with, and it's not to say that these student athletes shouldn't have these opportunities. It's just this seems to have been just thrown in as chaos as opposed to it. And we learned about you first from your book, 10 Principles of a Character Coach. When you look back at that book, which isn't that old, it only came out earlier this year. Well, of those 10 principles, are any of those now harder to coach with as a result of this ruling?
Oh man, the first one with integrity. It's not the first one, but one of the early ones talk about integrity and honesty. It's not going to be a lot of truth telling in this business any longer. They're trying to get ahead. Everyone's trying to get ahead, and they're trying to get the best way to get ahead. And I'm afraid that the young man will never be put in the right position that would lead him down that character development way. It's all about what can you bring to our program now.
Well, look, Coach, we always look forward to talking about how you're going to keep developing people and really appreciate your take on this. It's definitely going to change the playing field, and we look forward to keeping to talk to you as things go forward here.
Well, I'm going to say this, though. They have a little time frame right now, to get ahead of either the NCAA, the recruit, the coaches. They all have time here. The time frame is maybe about 6 months to a year to come up with the right answers. So everyone's going to have to put their heads together and think about what to do to get in front of this thing, because this thing can get totally out of control. Now, the only reason why I say that, I'm old enough because I've been in the game a long time. I came in when the rules were very limited, and you were at a point where it was almost the wild west. You could go into a home and offer stuff. You could take them out to dinner on your own. You take the whole team out with you back in those days. But now you're back to that point again, but it's in a different manner.
Oh, it's that on steroids. It's a much bigger thing that we got
that's
going.
A whole separate
That's
issue.
a whole separate issue. We're not going to get into that. Coach, we really appreciate the time. Look forward to hopefully talking to you again and seeing if the NCAA plays a little catch-up here and gets their hands on this.
Yes, and it's been great talking with you.
Thank you so much. You have yourself a great weekend.
Okay, take care.